What's up, guys? We got another game. Now, if you remember my last video, I ended at 1991. And normally when I play some type of faded chess, I usually play 5 minute or 3 minute chess to just mess around, try out new stuff. But I got super faded and played like 20 10-minute games, which counts as rapid. And I dropped from 1991 to below 1950. So this was my first 15-minute game after that unhealthy binge the other day. Um, and I won it, crossed back over 1950. So let's take a look at the game. Instead of starting off with d4, I was just trying to be weird. I was just in a weird mood, so I started off with e3 instead. He played e5, and then instead of going for the stonewall setup, because he played e5 already, I just switched gears and played b3, e3, b3. So I'm just playing random stuff at this point. And he takes the full center. So now I need to just develop, which I do. He develops. And now here, if I want to take the center, I should play d4 to challenge it. Or develop a piece, like bishop here. Those are two reasonable moves. But as you can see, I started with e3. I was in an unreasonable mood. And instead I played c4. c4 is not really good because he could always push d4. And then you have this weird setup with this like backwards pawn and this hold here. So you definitely want to play d5, d4 first so he can't push. But he didn't push, so that was a mistake by him. And just to show you, for example, and now this bishop's weird. It's not really the problem because you can trade it at some point or move it, but this pawn here and this structure, it's just really annoying for white and it just limits space. But he didn't do that. He took my pawn, which helps me develop my light square bishop. He develops his knight, which helps control the center. You definitely don't need to play h3 here. If we're looking for reasonable moves, d4 looks reasonable. Knight c3, knight f3, knight e2. I played h3 just so that his light square bishop doesn't have like a super active square to go to. d7 is passive. e6 gives me the trade and ruin his pawn structure. And f5, there's nothing here really. And I feel like he's going to want to push at some point anyway, blocking his bishop. So I played h3 just to make his development worse. So he develops the dark squared bishop, extra defense on the pawn, as well as preparing castling. I went knight f3, developing a piece, also preparing castling, also pressuring the pawn one more time. You could also go to knight e2. It's a nice little cubby hole that makes it unassailable by pawns. But okay, knight f3 is fine as well. He castles. So black's done like everything right. I've gotten a little weird. Um, I'd say everything's fine except this d pawn. I definitely need to get this to d4, and then I think white will be alright. And that's why I usually just throw pawns in the center on move 1. It's because it's usually just a good move. Like, you're going to want to get it in anyway at some point in the game. So I castle instead of playing this. Now he goes h6. I don't like it as much because it doesn't stop anything. It does create some luft, but maybe he had more useful moves. I'm not sure what. I developed my last minor piece towards the center. Makes sense. I don't really need to explain that. Also you'll notice because I played c4 instead of d4, that actually weakened some squares. So his knight can come in here, and it's kind of like not so good. I have a couple holes. So now he does this bunny ear after this bunny ear, and I still don't understand what he's doing. Gaining space, maybe this way. It's possible. But at this point, I mean, now I really have no other moves. I have to play d4, right? Everything's developed, so d4. And now my position's fine. Now black doesn't have any more edge because I freed my d pawn. He could have taken, he could have maybe left it there, but he pushed, which I don't ever really mind seeing because I kind of like this structure. This like this with knights targeting this. It reminds me of like a flip caro-kann reverse color with these knights targeting a central pawn. I don't know, it's probably hard, it doesn't make sense to you, but in my mind it makes sense. Okay, so I retreated and I have two attackers on this pawn. He has one defender. He develops his bishop and defends his pawn, but he can never jump over his pawn, so his bishop's kind of just a protector. Now it's my turn and I have to figure out what to do. Let's see. A3 I like because if the knight can get in here, it has some weird light squares. Also the bishop just makes it harder for him to move his pieces forward, and so he'll have a harder time maneuvering his minor pieces. Also I can gain space with b4 at some point, but I like it just to control the square. It controls the b4 square. That's how you do that. Alt and control. No wonder. Other moves I like. I mean, I guess f3 is a move, but I feel like after takes, I'm not really sure. Rook over. God only knows what else. This pawn here was giving me pause. But I guess if I can push it, although that might be difficult. I guess I would need to put my rooks here first, maybe. Oh no, the bishop's hanging. What am I saying? Bishop's hanging, so he doesn't have time for the rook over. And if he moves it back, you can... this is still hanging. Maybe you can throw in, like... I don't know, something somewhere. Just to uncover the defense. But then this is blocked. I mean, I guess it's not as bad as... I wasn't sure if I wanted to play f3. I did want to chip away at this, but I didn't like the way this pawn looked. So I didn't do that, but it is a move. Maybe the best. Instead, I put a knight in the center and opened up my bishop and moved a little forward with my army. In response, he moves forward, attacking my knight, also attacking light squares, and maybe playing c6 to kick me out. I take that knight because I really don't want a knight here. He has to recapture, and now the position's reasonable from both sides. Reasonable moves again, a3, maybe rook c1, maybe f3 still. I go a3, he moves back. Now maybe b4 is a move, I'm not entirely sure. And f3 again. I don't know much about these positions, but I saw his bishop here, and I saw my bishop here, and I kind of, the bishop doesn't really belong here, I'm not sure, it doesn't look like it does. So I wanted to bring it back to some nice, powerful but protected spot, and then put my knight here instead. So I retreated my bishop so I can make room for my knight to go here. He stops that with b5, which makes sense. Now, let's see, what options do I have? I can play a4. He can't push because then I get this square again. And if he takes, I can take back, and again, I have this square. So a4 is a good move. I could probably still play I don't know, f3 looks weirder and weirder now. Now I want to play it less and less. Now I just want to play on the queen side, these three files. So that's what I do. So instead of playing a4, which is a good move, I play rook c1, saying I'll just leave these pawns here. And I'll play on the c file, and even though this is protected, I could still advance my pieces as far as they can go and see what happens. Like, if he can't push c5 ever, because I have a piece on c6, even if I don't have an instant win, I'll have a ton of pressure, and maybe I can slowly, stop playing from there. So I bring my rook here, and he puts it on the b file, I guess, so that he's anticipating rook here, and maybe he wants to meet it like that. I do put my rook here because it attacks this and stops c5, which is his break that he wants to make. The other break would be this and this. That would take 3 moves just to set up, and it doesn't even mean it's good because this pawn. So I really was happy if I can get a piece to stay here. He challenges it immediately. Now I could take it, and after recaptures he'll have like this weird pawn block. Yes, it's a 3-on-2, but now I have a protected passer right down the middle if this pawn moves. So I was looking at that, but I said I don't want to give up a piece for no reason off the c6 square. I want to keep this square. So I reinforced it, and he developed his last rook and protected this pawn a third time because the queen does hit it again as well as defend the rook. Here, maybe I could have tripled, but I saw this opportunity to take the rook. He has to take back. And now, like I said, he has these 3, but I have this passed pawn protected already. And so I'm thinking that if I can just trade everything, I should be in good shape with my pressure, this passed pawn. Let's see. I take control of the C file because I still want to put a piece here. I want to control the C file and win with my passed pawn. He moves his queen, maybe preparing this since it's defended by the bishop. Also, he's attacking this now with a second attacker. Also defending this, not that it needs defense. So now he's attacking this pawn. So I push it. Don't want to lose it. He takes. I take. Now it's a 2 versus 1. And I have this guy. So we both have our assets. He wants to win with the B pawn, and I want to win with the D pawn. Now, what just transpired was he attacked my pawn, so I moved it. He captured, I captured. But at the end of this line, my bishop's actually hitting this. Now that it's undoubled. So he notices that. He doesn't want to lose that because that's his only, this duo is his only trump. So he pushes it. But now, after all of these moves, I finally get this square available for my pieces. And I finally jump my knight in with a double attack. Boom, bam. He doesn't mind. I mean, he pins the knight. So I can't really take the bishop or the pawn. So I just move my queen out of the pin. You could move it back. You probably should move it back and proceed. but I moved it forward because I like living on the dangerous side, right? Chess. Now he goes bishop e6, repositioning his bishop to a better diagonal and pinning me again, which is very annoying. But I just take his pawn. This pawn is oops, I didn't do that. This pawn is hanging, so I took it with my queen. And in this one moment, he has a chance to equalize the game in a crafty way. And that way, so what's happening here, right? His bishop is hit by my queen and my knight, 2 pieces. So it's hanging. My knight is hit 2 times, but also protected 2 times. So it's not hanging. My knight protects my queen. Okay, so now all those observations are made. And so his tactic is bishop takes the knight. And what does that mean? That means A, the queen lost its defender, and B, there's no more double attack on the bishop. Right? So the bishop's not hanging and my queen's not defended. And I just lost a piece. So I have to recapture the piece back with either the bishop or the rook. Let's say I capture with the bishop. I'm not sure if it makes a difference, but let's say he can go rook to b8 because it's defended, hitting the queen and the bishop skewer. I can't take the bishop anymore because my knight's not attacking it. And basically, I have to take the rook. Oh, no, wait. I have to take this with... I just lose the game here. Because I move my queen and lose a piece. So the way for me to equalize this tactic is to take the rook, so that when he goes here, trying to win a second piece, I take the rook. He takes my queen, and then I give a check. He goes here. I take the bishop, and it's a queen for a rook, a bishop, and a protected pass pawn. So it's interesting. I feel very comfortable as white here, actually. Plant this here. I don't know, and coordinate somehow with the pieces, but that was his one out to equalize. But he did not see that tactic, luckily for me. And instead, he goes here, which looks reasonable because it gets out of the double attack, right? So it's not hanging. And it looks like it's on a defended square and it defends a pawn. The problem with this is this pawn is still hanging. So I take it. And now there are no tactics for him, because all of his tactics revolved around a rook here, which he can no longer play without a bishop here. He takes my rook, I take it back, and I'm just up material. So what can black really do here? Nothing. He's losing completely. So he retreats and tries to create this solid structure, but all I have to do now is trade everything, these pieces, and I insta-win. Even without this pawn here, you need to know that you could trade everything and insta-win. How? What's the idea? This pawn here is protected and passed. So if all the pieces were gone, even this pawn, you can march your king around. His king's gonna try to stop it, but he's not gonna. He's gonna run out of moves, and he's gonna be in zugzwang, and you're gonna get to shoulder him and slowly push this pawn and queen it. So basically, you want to trade as much as you can. So it's my move. I also want to just right now my plan is to push this pawn. If trades are come my way, I'm definitely gonna do it. But right now, since I have an A pawn, I'm just gonna try to push it, and he'll be forced to trade stuff to stop it. So my knight's in the way. I move my knight out of the way and initiate possible trades. He takes it. I take it. Trade done. Easy. He attacks my queen. There's no point to that move. I can go anywhere on the map. He retreats his knight, trying to reconsolidate to this square, which is a decent idea. But now I have this piece. And it has no good squares except for a3, so let's put on a3. It happens to come with tempo, but I would have done that anyway. He blocks. You know what I'm going to do? Trade, right? Do I care about my bishop? No. Push the pawn. King move. Doesn't even factor into my calculations. Push the pawn. Knight c8. Okay, temporarily I can't push for one move. Queen b7. Threatens the knight. Threatens the queen. He can't take because I'll recapture in queen, right? If he moves the queen somewhere, he loses the knight with check and then mate. So he has to move the queen like in such a place that it would defend the knight. If you go here, you actually get mated. There's another hidden threat. So technically you would have to go queen e8. But he found another move which works, and that's knight d6. Hitting the queen, hitting the bishop. It's a good move, I like it. But it doesn't work. Just because of brute force, I take his queen. He takes, and now my bishop's hanging. And if I care about my bishop, he will have time to go here or here and stop the pawn. So I don't care about my bishop. And I immediately push because now he can't stop promotion. He takes, I take, and the rest doesn't even matter because you should be able to beat Magnus Carlsen from this position with a queen. So, like I said, you just king walk. He literally can't move. And I don't go for his pawns. I'm going for mate. This guy's playing. It's a joke at this point. Yeah, then when he moved his knight back, I saw this cool pin on a8. So I'm like, okay. Lose another piece, and then just to troll him, checkmate him this way. But, yeah, it was a good game. I don't recommend starting your games with e3, but you don't have to listen to me. I'm not your dad. So I highly advise against c4 here. I advise against it. Either play bishop b5 or d4. These are the reasonable moves. c4 is definitely a move I wouldn't play again. h3. I think at this point I would really want to get in d4 before I do anything else. Problem with this is you have to give up your bishop if you don't want an isolated pawn. And then I still wouldn't want an isolated pawn, so I would give up my queen only to have an isolated pawn. It makes no sense, and I just don't like it. So I guess knight e2 would be my next choice. Preparing this next. But okay. Yeah, d4 here. d4 here. Definitely. I should have played it. I should have played it as soon as it was available. It's available on move 1. That's why you should play it on move 1. Instead of trying to fight for it on move 20. Okay, so this I liked. It's kind of hard. Knight d5 is good, but I think I just have to take the plunge and go with f3. It looks like it should be played. I'm just not sure of the consequences, especially with h3 in the mix, because my dark squares are so juicy. Yeah, I probably wouldn't play it with h3, but without h3, without h3, I would consider it again. But it still might be good regardless of dark squares. I don't know. It's always weird when you let black get this space advantage. Okay, so 95 is reasonable enough. Leads to trades, which I really don't know who trades favor. Like, if this is just a pure endgame, he has a 3 on 2 here, but I still have this pawn here, which contacts it. I guess it's just equal. It doesn't favor anyone. I'm not really sure. Maybe here, a4. This idea I liked once I played rook c1. This I liked. This was necessary. This was fine. Maybe queen d1 here. Maybe queen d1 just to not put myself in pins and let him get those weird tactics where he can take and have to sack my queen. So what's the idea? Queen d1 protects the pawn. Double lines with the bishop, although does that really matter? And then still threatening this, still threatening this. If he defends, maybe I could relocate. The rook will get traded. It's fine. Oops. What move was that? Queen. Yeah. I went here, and this is just the problem. The fact he has this move. If he didn't have this move, this move's great. Wait a second. If I take this bishop, and he takes my queen, and I take his rook with check, he moves his king. I'm down, and I'm down a point of material, and this pawn's hanging, and this knight's hanging. Okay, that doesn't work. Taking the pawn is still fine. Even though he has that tactic, it's still fine, but it's kind of a forced sequence. This is just bad. And then the rest of the game is not worth looking at because it's just easily convertible. Okay, so after our binge, our faded chess binge, we're back up to 53. We're going to keep climbing. It's good anyway. There's no point in getting to a high rating fast. It's all learning all the different structures and openings along the way. The end result's always going to be better when you learn more. So that's that game. We'll go to the next one. Good luck in your chess.